Hey y'all, this is Mark Canterbury, aka Henry Godwinn. Y'all listen to Wrestling Nostalgia.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty. Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to Wrestling Nostalgia. I am your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us for another great episode. We have a really cool guest on today. We have Mark Canterbury. And you might be asking yourself, well, who's Mark Canterbury? Well, you would probably know him better as Henry Godwinn from the WWF or WWE. He's on. It's a great interview. We have a lot of fun talking about everything with his career, his time in WWE, his friendship with The Undertaker and Yokozuna. Lots of good stuff. So that interview is coming up here in a little bit. Before we get there, just a little housekeeping. Thank you for joining us. And whatever platform you listen to us, make sure you subscribe there. And if the option is available to you, give us a rating and review. That helps us in those algorithms that when people are listening to other similar podcasts, wrestling podcasts, we come up as a suggested listen. So that helps us a lot with the networking and coming up as an option that, for people to discover us that may not know. Make sure you also follow us on social media. The podcast is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Just look up Wrestle Nostalgia, RASSLE Nostalgia. And you can follow me personally. The best place to do that's on Twitter or X, at The Dave Dynasty. And the best way that you can support the show is to go to PROWRESTLINGTEES.com/The Dave Dynasty and order a shirt. The holiday season is upon us, so you can go there and find a shirt for all the wrestling fans on your shopping list or for yourself if that's what you like. We have lots of cool options there. Some really cool shirts that I really like. I'm really proud of. I think they look great. And like I said, all the money that is raised from that goes straight back here into the podcast, helps keep it free for you guys every other week. One bit of news in the wrestling world that, of course, everybody knows and by now, and that I just want to speak on a little bit is, of course, CM Punk is now back in the WWE. He returned on November 25th at the Survivor Series, of course. There was all the speculation leading up to that show in Chicago. Will he? Won't he? Who knows? What's happening? And it was a very divided conversation, right? People saying, yes, he will. People saying, no, he won't. Of course, word supposedly from the WWE was they had no interest. But yeah, come on. Like I talked about on an episode, a little while back, like they're going to come out and say. But it was whether you like him, you don't like him, whether you're a WWE fan or not, whatever you want to say, if you're honest with yourself, you have to admit, though, it was a very cool moment in wrestling history, right? That got to the end of the show. People really didn't know what was going on. It was really kept hush-hush. The credits, were on, or whatever you want to call them, were on the screen. You really thought the pay-per-view was done, or the whatever premium live event was done. And then the music hit, and Punk comes out. The crowd goes nuts, and that's all there is. So whatever you think, opinions aside, let's just be frank and be honest, guys. It was a cool moment. Now, I know, right? Punk's had whatever. This is his third comeback into wrestling, from injury or from retirement or from whatever in the last few years. But here's the thing. Again, whether you like him or you don't, I get that, right? And you're entitled to those opinions. The fact of the matter is, he's a difference maker. And I know if you don't like him, people will argue, no, he's not. No, he's not. No, he is, right? Because people, like Triple H say, people talk about him, right? People tune in to see what he's going to do. And even if you hate the guy and he comes back at Survivor Series at WWE, those people were still talking about it the next day. And those are engagements. Those are whatever, the network, that web was out there spinning and the word's spreading. So whatever your opinions are, he is a needle mover. And I personally, I like Punk. I like his approach. I know people claim he's an asshole. People claim this. He's got a bad attitude. And I don't know, man. I think, in my view, he's just got a little bit of old school in him. He's opinionated. He sticks by his opinions. Can he be a little gruff? Can he be a little difficult to work with? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any personal workings with him, personal dealings with him. So, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I like it, man. I like his approach. I like his style. I like his skills on the mic. And again, if you're completely honest and you take your opinions aside, he's a difference maker, right? He does cause talk. He does cause viewership. And, I mean, the social media engagements and views on his return online were through the roof. The most, the most viewed social media clip ever in WWE history. And that's taking into account a lot, I believe is what they were saying. So, whatever. It is a cool thing. Again, if you take your personal opinions out of it, it's still one of those things that people will talk about on podcasts or whatever there are down the road in the future when people are looking back on their nostalgia and their favorite times and their history of wrestling. There will be people talking about this. So that, take it for what it is. It is what it is. But you are entitled to your opinions and to like what you like, as am I, which is why I have this podcast. There's, not a whole lot of the current product that really intrigues me. I mean, I like some here and there, but overall, there's not a product that really engages me. So what I do and what a lot of us do out there is we turn to the past, right? We turn to what we like, what we grew up on, what we're nostalgic for. I'm very honest that I will state that, yes, some of that is not necessarily the best product in the world. There is a heavy dose of nostalgia that causes that love, but that's okay. That's fine. That is part of having a passion for something, is that plays into it. But anyway, that's what this podcast is all about. It's looking into what I like. And just so happens that a lot of things that I really enjoy and that I'm passionate about, there's a lot of you out there who have that same view. And a lot of you who, like that historical view. I like to dive into a lot of stuff. I like to discuss some stuff that maybe isn't covered a lot. My quote unquote wheelhouse is Midwest wrestling, because that's what I watched as a kid. That's what I was around, the territory in area that I grew up within. So yeah, that's my wheelhouse. That's my passion that I like to dive deep and do my historical work in. And then hopefully you enjoy that, right? Hopefully it is exposing something that you don't get everywhere. And hopefully you enjoy those things. We'll have Richard Vicek, the author of the Dick the Bruiser biography, back on in the future, the near future, actually. Now, we've already got the interview on the book scheduled to record, but he will be on in the near future for part 3 of the history of the WWA. So you can stand by for that. But like I said today, we have a great interview with Mark Canterbury. It's a lot of fun. It was great talking to him. And hopefully this leads to a part 2. And a part 2 that Mark said, hey, maybe we should get Phineas on, right? Let's do a Godwinn reunion on the podcast and talk about the Godwinns. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. So hopefully that will come in the future here on Wrestling Nostalgia. But for the time being, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have that interview with Mark Canterbury, a.k.a. Henry Godwinn. So stick around. If you like horror movies, be sure to check out Dave Dynasty and Ike Isaacs on the Listen to Their Screams Horror Podcast. It is available on all podcast platforms and on social media at Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2, and Screams. All right, welcome back to Wrestling Nostalgia. I'm being joined by a very special guest, a man formerly known as Shanghai Pierce and Henry Godwinn, Mark Canterbury. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing fine tonight, my friend.
That's good. That's good. Let's talk about your career a little bit. Let's start from the beginning. You were trained by George South and the Italian Stallion. How did that go? How did that come about?
I was working at a hospital in Princeton, West Virginia, and met George and Italian Stallion up there. And they were having a show at one evening and trained that day, and that the rest is history. I never looked back after that. I worked for them for about 2 years. Oh, God, you talking about work. I worked 16 times in 4 days. We were doing junior highs and high schools, and we were doing Say No to Drugs in the schools here in West Virginia a lot. So it was a good experience, but, working those 16 times in 4 days, that's how I worked my way up the ladder so quick, I think, because I had a lot of ring time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that's something a lot of guys nowadays are missing, right? That ring time and working from those small crowds, perfecting it before they get on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very early on, you met Dennis Knight, right, which was the future Phineas Godwinn, your longtime tag team partner. How did you guys meet? I mean, that was very early in your careers, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had worked for George and Style there for about 2 years, and then but after a year, they started taking me down to be an extra at WCW down at Center Stage a lot, And so one night I was down there. I did this for about a year, going down there with George and Style, doing TV, and they wanted me to work Eric Watts, one of his first matches, Center Stage in Atlanta. And that's when Cowboy Bill Watts had taken over, and him and Dusty were running everything. So I had a match with Eric, and it was a hell of a match. And so after the match, they come up to me, Dusty and them, said, and Jody, and said, when can you go on the road and work Eric sometime? And I said, yeah, when? They said, well, we'd like you to go tomorrow. So George and Style were giving me clothes, and of course I got paid that night $400 for doing TV, and so I was ready for the road and jumped in the car with Arn Anderson. He let me ride with him, and it was just me and him, and hell, I was scared shitless. But after that, I got in with, I rode with Harley Race, Hercules Hernandez, and Barbarian. You talking about really being scared?
Yeah, really.
But that's how me and Phineas got together. I worked Eric for a little bit, and they said, well, we're going to bring this other guy in. We're going to look at him. So it was Gainesville, Georgia, TV. And I had worked a match, and Tex had a match that night, Dennis, and they said, we're going to put you all together. So we went home and got our gear all together, and that's how we started in WCW.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of used mid-card or whatever, but you were, I mean, sure, you got a lot of experience, right? And worked with a lot of great guys, and it was kind of a good way. I mean, you guys are both young, so it was kind of a good way to cut your teeth, I suspect.
Yeah, it was easy down there. We were a little green. I thought we were both working pretty good when we started, and but after about a year, Arn said, Arn even told us, he'd say, you guys are too good at getting other people over. He started telling us that. And so there towards the end when we got let go, he said, you guys need to go up north. So I went on up north before Dennis did, and I worked about a year up there. But,
yeah,
it was a good experience in WCW, and we did, we got to work. Our first little run was with Bagwell and JYD.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun, and we worked the Cole Twins were around then, and
yeah.
Of course in '93 we did Beach Blast against Too Cold Scorpio and Bagwell, which was a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun down there, and we hung out with Kevin Nash, and so it was awesome.
Yeah, and then like you said, around '94 you went up to WWF. How did that? Was there any interest in bringing both you and Dennis, or did they just talk to you alone and only interested in you as a singles?
Well, I think they wanted us both, but Tex had to work some stuff out. He had some personal stuff going on, and Kevin Nash and Harley Race spoke for me, and so in a month after we got let go in WCW, I flew up, had a meeting with Vince and J.J. Dillon, and, we went in Vince's little secret office there and talked for about 3 hours. But during the conversation, he said, what do you like to do? What have you done in your life, your jobs? And I told him, I worked, did a lot of construction, I drove a truck, tractor trailer, I farmed, worked in the hospital on the psych floor. So, but when I said farm, it's like a light bulb went off. So, what'd you do? What animals did you? Because he's from Carolina. He's a ridge runner too. That's what we used to call Vince, was the old ridge runner.
Yeah.
He's a country boy. But we used to, we talked about that, and he says, well, what'd you do with the animals? And I told him, we castrated them, and we slopped them and butchered them. And so he says, slop? Would you have a barrel? I said, no, you have a slop bucket around your house. And he says, oh, yeah. So it was just like, that's what he was gravitating towards. So we started talking about that. He come up with a name that day. Matter of fact, my middle name is Henry Godwinn. And that's was somebody invented his granddad or somebody, but that was their name. So Henry Orpheus Godwinn is what we come up with to stand for hog.
Yeah. Do you think because Vince is from Carolina, right? He was what, raised in a trailer and everything else. He always had a fascination with those hillbilly type gimmicks and those, those Southern type gimmicks. You think that's why?
I think it's a good, because, it is reality, that like Vince Russo said he wanted us in suits. I said, well, what's wrong with the Godwins in overalls? I said, you come to my town right now, half the men walking around here are in friggin' overalls, so I don't want to hear that shit. Anyway, yeah, that's, I think, Vince, he knows about life. He grew, like you say, he grew up in a trailer, so it was reality. And, I think that's one of the reasons why. He knows how tough it is and how Southerners work hard and proud people.
Yeah, and you briefly worked heel when you first started, right, with $1 Million Man, but then you pretty quickly turned face. And I think a lot of people, when they think Henry O. Godwinn, especially those early times, they remember that feud with Triple H, or as he was known then, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and whatever the what was it, the hog pen match and all those different things. What was it like working Triple H back in that time?
Oh my God, it was so much fun because me and him and Tex had got let go right at the same time. Mm-hmm. So me and Hunter, I went up, and then Hunter came in, and man, they put that Blue Bloods gimmick on him, and me with the slop and the hogs and the old farmer. It was meant to be. But the chemistry me and him had, we worked like 6 or 7 months. We were married to each other, and I got to say he was a trooper because he got slopped every night.
Yeah.
He'd have to wash his stuff out and hang it over the hotel, somewhere. And I washed my stuff out a lot too, because hell, I got slop all over me. But yeah, it was a great. Well, when we had that hog pen match, Vince says, I'm not going to tell you guys. You guys sort of try to come up with it. If you need help, then, but me and Hunter come up with that whole match. We went out there and laid the whole match out. And when it was over, Vince came up to us and said, damn, boys, that was a hell of a match. So to get that response from Vince right after, Hunter's bleeding, covered in hog shit, and I'm covered in hog shit. And so to hear that was very rewarding.
Yeah. It was remember, like you said, it was, you guys were natural adversaries, right? The high blue blood kind of guy, the ritzy guy, and then the hog farmer. It just worked. Yeah. Right? It made sense. And it was some memorable stuff. In '96, they finally brought in Phineas. Were you glad to see Dennis come in and start teaming with him again?
Yeah, I had been pushing to get him up there, and then finally, after like a year, I think it was just about a year, maybe a little more, they finally brought him in. He had a dark match, and they said, well, we're going to bring him in as your cousin. So we fell right back into the Texas Shanghai days and took right off.
Yeah, I've always been a sucker. I'm a tag team guy, man. I love tag teams, and especially good gimmick tag teams, guys that fit together. I loved you guys when you came in and you fit together, and they put you early on with Hillbilly Jim, which I think just added in a whole other dimension, right? It kind of gave you, I don't know, like I don't want to say credibility. That's not the word, but you know what I mean. It gave you this. Here's this legend in your corner. What was it like working with Jim?
Oh my God, we had so much fun with him. When we got fired up, got going, we rode with Hillbilly quite a bit, and he was just a sweetheart. He was good to be around, and try to come up with some new ideas. And of course, he was our mic guy and the interviews, and but we had a lot of fun with Jim. Good guy.
Yeah, a lot of people remember Hillbilly Jim. They just think the hillbilly gimmick, whatever else. But I mean, he was around WWF for so long, doing things for Coliseum Video, and now he's got, I think, a Sirius XM show and everything. I mean, Jim's a pretty smart guy, and of course, got the charisma, and one of the more memorable characters in WWF history. And I mean, that whole area, man, that whole era, the tag team scene was pretty deep in WWF, and you feuded with guys like the Body Donnas, Smoking Guns, and in '96, you guys held the tag titles. What was that like, getting a run with the belts that summer?
Yeah, they didn't last long.
No.
I think Vince Russo had to do with that because we were in overalls. But for the little bit of time we had them, it was fun. And there was a lot of good talent, the Blackjacks and, like you say, the Body Donnas. And it was just a good time, And I'm a big tag team guy too, because when you got Arn Anderson working with you and giving you advice in WCW, and Barry Windham and Dustin, we were pretty tight with Dustin back then in WCW. So I enjoyed the tag team. So when Phineas finally did come up, yeah, we just sort of picked up where we left off, and things were falling into place. And then we went to Southern Justice, and we were supposed to get the belts for a third time. We were supposed to take them off of Road Dogg and Billy Gunn in September, but Vince decided not to that night on Raw, and they sent me home the next day, and then I had spinal fusion a couple months after that.
Yeah. You mentioned the new Blackjacks. I may be one of the few guys that really like the new Blackjacks. I know they get a lot of shit and whatever, but I'm like I told you earlier before we started recording, I'm from Indiana originally, and I grew up on the WWA and Dick the Bruiser with the original Blackjacks. So I may be one of the few guys that was excited to see a new Blackjacks, and I loved them, and I thought it was a cool thing. I know maybe it didn't get over, maybe people couldn't relate to it like I did, but man, I thought Bradshaw and Wyndham. I think it's an underappreciated team there.
Yeah, they were good workers. They were pretty good partners together. I thought they had good chemistry, and it didn't take off like it should have.
Nah.
And then you had Owen and Bulldog. We worked them. That was always a treat.
Yeah, and you got injured in there not long after you guys dropped the belts, and then when you came back, you and Phineas started turning heel, and you kind of became a little less. I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to say goofy, but you know what I mean. A little less cartoonish, and a little more serious, a little more scary. That a little more sinister, so to speak. So who came up with the idea of turning you heel, and what'd you think of that? Because you always hear guys say it's easier to play a heel than a baby face.
Well, we in WCW we were heels down there, so
yeah,
we felt that was in our that was in our wheelhouse because we liked cutting the ring off and keep the guy on our side and just working the ring.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed that time.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of hit your groove as heels. I just thought it really worked even better. And there for a while, you were managed by Uncle Cletus, who was the dirty white boy Tony Anthony, who's again another underappreciated talent that really never got the opportunities he deserved. What was it like working with Tony?
Oh my God, I love Tony because he was in Knoxville and I was in Pigeon Forge there in Sevier County, Tennessee. So we hung out a lot. And of course, me and Kane flew out of Knoxville together all the time back then. Yeah. Before Isaac Anderson first started. It was fun working with White Boy, and what a big silly country boy he is. So and then we were managed by Jeff Jarrett with Southern Justice.
Yeah.
Colonel Parker.
Yeah.
So we were surrounded by good people. It was going to be a good thing. They had big plans for Southern Justice, and
yeah,
shit happens.
Yeah. Like you said, you got another run as tag champs there in '97, and you lost them kind of because of Cletus. You turned on him, and then like you said, you did the Southern Justice thing, and then you suffered another injury. Excuse me, and you had to kind of leave wrestling for a while, right? It was a pretty serious injury. What was going on there with your back?
Well, I had broke my neck.
Oh, neck. Okay.
Against Talking Animal.
The Doomsday.
Doomsday device.
Mm-hmm.
I cracked my C7 that night, and I was supposed to go home and rest for 14 weeks and have another MRI done. But I went home for 6.5 weeks and told Vince I wanted to come back on the road. So he put a trainer with me that worked on me every night after the match, iced me, massage and heat and all the whatnots. But I wrestled 7 weeks with a broken neck, and then they finally sent me home, and I couldn't do it no more. Had spinal fusion done, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, did you think your career was done?
I was concerned it might have been, but I still felt like I could. I wasn't ready at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, you were out for a few years, and I think, and you did ultimately come back, and in 2006, you re-signed with WWE, and you wrestled in Deep South Wrestling. You teamed with Ray Gordy. Nothing really happened with that though. Like, I mean, what could have, what went wrong there with that comeback attempt?
Well, it wasn't Phineas, and it was trying something new. And I lost my son in 2003. I lost my dad 2 months later, so I didn't adjust well. So I don't think mentally and physically I was ready to come back. If it would have been under different circumstances, it could have turned out differently. But and Ray had some shit going on, and that didn't work out. So
yeah,
I just felt like I was standing there with my clothes off, naked. It wasn't a good feeling, and Phineas wasn't there, and so I decided to back out.
Yeah, I mean, the business was kind of changing too, and it was a little different. Before we started recording, you talked about that this weekend you were with Taker at one of his his one-man shows or whatever it is he's calling, and that makes me think of you were a group member of a group of wrestlers backstage that kind of became known as the Bone Street Crew. Tell me a little about the Bone Street Crew and what that is and how that got to be and what you guys were like.
Well, we'll talk about I'll tell you how I get it started, and then we'll talk about the show in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. When I went up there, I rode with Jeff Jarrett, hung out with him some, and then I worked Taker one night after just maybe 2 or 3 months, 4 months of being there, before me and Hunter started our thing. And I worked Taker one night on TV, and he gave me so much. I mean, we beat the piss out of each other, and he backstage he goes, "Damn boy," he didn't know me. We had talked a little bit, but he said, "I enjoyed that." He said, "I want to work with you again sometime." But so we hit it off, and I started riding with him and Paul Bear, and of course Yoko, and Fatu was in it, Savio Vega, and this was a few months before Tex had come up. So and of course Paul Bear and Mr. Fuji were sort of in the BSK. They hung around. But it was just some guys that got together. We always, our thing was after the match, we'd go out to the strip club instead of going to a bar, because you get in these country and western bars or these dance bars and people want to drink courage and then test you. So
yeah,
we would just go to a little bar, little gentleman's club, put our backs in the corners and talk about the night. But it was just, we all got along. We were a very diverse group. I remember, learning a lot about the Samoans and Yoko, and I used to go to Yoko's house on the weekend. If I was out that way, instead of flying home, I'd stay with Yoko and learned a lot about that culture and the food, and went to Godfather's house in Vegas, stayed at Taker's house. So it was just a group of guys that always hung out. We played a
lot of dominoes, didn't you?
Played dominoes, the bones.
Yeah.
We went out one night and walked in a club, and Yoko said, "Bone Street Crew, bitches." So that's how it all started.
So he just came up with the name just off the cuff like that. That's how the name came up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, him and Taker, they wanted the bone and the street, but they wanted the crew to be spelled with a K.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, obviously, right, you were at the Taker show. Are you guys all still tight, those of you that are still with us?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a little BSK group. It's got me and Savio and Phineas and Godfather and Rikishi. We're all on that, so we keep up with each other on that chat line. Yeah, it was fun. Hadn't seen Taker in a couple of years, so it was fun going to his show in Pittsburgh Saturday night.
Yeah, how did that come up? How'd you get invited to that? I mean, that's not exactly in your. I mean, I guess it's fairly close to you, but how'd that come up?
Well, I got a good friend. He's an insurance guy and a politic guy in the northern part of the state, up in Huntington, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. He said, "Hey, man, I'm going to get some tickets for Taker's show. You want to go?" I said, "Where's it at?" He said, "Pittsburgh." So that's like 4 hours and 45 minutes for me. So he got the tickets, and we met in Charleston and went up. And I got a hold of Mark and found out where he was staying, so we stayed where he was at. And we got to hang out before the show and had a beer, and then went over, and my buddy Ben from the office from WWE, he was there, and so they took care of us, and John from the office, and they got us seats in the front row. So I thought, we're just Mark's going to come out and do his show. He may say I'm here and then start telling some stories. But damn, we went out there, and he come out, and he talked for about 10 minutes, getting his show started. He kept looking down at me. He goes, "Okay, I can't take it no longer. I got a dear friend here, one of the original members of the BSK, Henry Godwinn." He goes, "You want to come up here?" I said, "Hell yeah." So I went up there, and that sucker pulled me up on stage for 35 minutes and started telling stories. So, but it was really good, very healthy to get to do that with your buddies sometimes.
Yeah, when was the last time you saw Taker before that? Has it been a while?
It was at WrestleMania when his retirement thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's been a bit. So yeah, I mean, I imagine as much time as you guys spent together and on the road and traveling and everything else, it's every time you guys meet, it's probably just like picking up where you left off, isn't it?
Oh my God, everybody gets silly, get to laughing and telling old stories.
Yeah.
I told Taker, that's all we got is pictures and stories anymore, So I took him some pictures of us on the road. I got a bunch more to send him, but I mean, I could tell he really appreciated them, because pictures mean a lot. I got a lot of personal pictures here that I used to post some, and
yeah,
I got some of Ben and Arn and Dusty, and just cool personal pictures. I told Undertaker the other night, I must have been the only damn nerd on the road that had the camera, because I'm the only one that's got a load of pictures.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing that everybody didn't have a camera phone like they do nowadays, right? Because they're
Oh my God, I'm so glad I was not in this era now. I would.
man, who knows what'd be out there floating around, isn't it?
Yeah, that would have been scary.
Oh, so you mentioned Yokozuna, right? And obviously you were close. Where were you? Do you remember? Not necessarily where were you, but do you remember how you reacted when you heard Yoko had passed?
Well, I was when Owen died, I was sitting at home in Aspen collar where I broke my neck. So that's how soon it was after that Owen had his accident. And
yeah,
I don't know, when that bothered me, but I don't know, Yoko really bothered me because, I used to drive Yoko a lot, room with him, and, go home with him, and he'd feed us, and it was just an awesome time. And talking about a sweetheart and just a big guy, I mean, Yoko was. And I always post on his the day we lost him and his birthday. But yeah, he was a very good friend.
Yeah, I mean, everything you hear is just, you hear good stuff about him for everybody that worked with him and knew him. And, I mean, especially, from such an amazing family, such a legendary family. I mean, still out there, obviously, in the light and everything. So,
yeah,
that's pretty great. I mean, I remember Yoko all the way back, when he worked the AWA as Coquina Maximus and stuff, and thought, man, this dude's something else. And
it's crazy how he was very athletic. Me and him worked when we went to India. We did that India tour raising money. We did an AIDS tour over there raising money for AIDS, and me and Yoko worked a couple times. But he was 600 pounds when I worked him, and he could still he took my clothesline and took a big bump. So I was telling that story tonight too. He said, "Damn, what do I owe you, money?"
That's funny. Oh. So, I mean, I know you've done, I don't know, countless interviews, right? And told countless stories. And I'm sure some of the stuff you get tired of rehashing or whatever else is, tell us something. I know you got stories you want to keep for yourself, but is there anything you can tell us that you maybe haven't told a million times? Any kind of road story, locker room story? I'm not saying you got to incriminate anybody, but anything you can share with us.
Yeah, it would be. Well, I guess everybody's heard the Sonny story with the slop bucket.
Ah, yeah. Go ahead, tell that story though, in case anybody hasn't.
Sonny was hard to work with, and she had treated Chris pretty bad too. So she wasn't a pleasant person all the time. I got along with her, but she was difficult. So we come to TV one day, and Bruce Pritchard stopped me and said, "Hey, you're gonna slop Sonny tonight." I said, "No shit, that's awesome." So I do. We got our gear put away and brought our gear in our bags and put in the locker room, and we went to eat at catering. And I always take my slop bucket, and I would make it about 2:00 and just let it set all day and then use it that night. So I went and made my slop, and I guess the word had got around we were slopping Sonny. So I went in the locker room where all the boys were, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to set this down here. Sonny's getting slop tonight, so nobody mess with this." And then I left. Well, I had filled it about halfway up, but when I come back, here comes Razor X-Pac out of the bathroom with the slop bucket that's filled up to almost the top. I had to carry it real easy when I went to the ring. So, yeah, I heard Matt say there must have been like 23 different DNAs in that bucket. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, in retrospect, I don't think it could happen to a nicer person. But I mean,
yeah.
But
It was sunny. So
Yeah, I know. I mean, you mentioned Chris Candido, and again, there's another guy. I mean, man, such an amazing worker, and you only hear good stuff about him, right? I mean, again, like you said, Sonny's kind of screwed him over. What was it like? You guys, like I said, you worked with Chris a lot when he was with the Body Donis. Tell me a little bit about Chris.
Oh, Chris, yeah, just soft-spoken, very professional, hell of a talent, and just a good guy. Knew the business well. And we worked him and Dr. Tom, skip and zip for a little while. We won the belts off of them the first time in MSG, Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and Doc. I mean, I love Doc. I've known Doc for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, both good guys. I was just with Doc not too long ago at a signing, and he was doing a little hour seminar, so I sat in with that and just watched him. But yeah, I love both of them guys.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of Chris, and yeah, like you said, Dr. Tom, man, one of the greatest minds ever in pro wrestling. Such a smart guy, and
yeah.
So, man, when people look back and remember Mark Canterbury or Henry Godwinn or whatever they would, however they remember you, what do you hope they remember most when they look back on your career overall?
Oh, that I was a good person. I was respectful. I did good in the business. I tried to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go to the Hall of Fame to know what I did and what I brought to the business.
Yep.
So it's just a thing anymore. We were 2-time WWF tag team champs. So,
mm-hmm.
And we got to work with a lot of good people, a lot of top guys, and I have no regrets. I get to do stuff like if they said, hey, Undertaker wants you to come to his One Dead Man show and come up on stage and be part of it, or go to the Hall of Fame, I would have went to Undertaker's thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not all about the glitz and glory. I like the friendships and the solidness of the business, and
yeah,
I just want to say, hey, he was a big man that could move and was powerful. I mean, that's what the boys used to tell me anyway, and I was nice and respectful, and I respected people back, and I think that's what's lacking in the business now. So
yeah, I agree.
I want to.
Yeah, and not only you mentioned you were 2-time tag champ, I mean, you were 2-time tag champs during a hot period, right? I mean, things were really heating up during that time. So not only, I mean, that's something to say. I mean, it's an honor, obviously, to be tag champs at any time. But, I mean, you were, like we said earlier, there was a lot of good tag teams. And so, for them to give you the ball during that time, that's something special.
Yeah. It was, and the Headbangers, I talked
mm-hmm.
to them guys a lot. And we had some hell of matches with them, and the Harris twins, and
uh-huh.
It was a good time for tags, and
yep,
I miss it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I like I said, I was always a tag team guy, and it's just, I don't know, it's not as prominent anymore. It's just not as much focus, and on the teams, and then I don't know. I like those guys, with the matching gimmicks and whatever. I don't know. Something special about that. I don't know. Everybody, I guess, wants, I don't know. Everybody's selfish anymore, I guess. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. All the bells and whistles. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
Come out to some music, walk to the damn ring and whip somebody's ass, and then the night be over. All these lights and hoorah. It's too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm old school. I'm easy.
Yeah. I mean, you boil it down, right? It's pretty simple on how you get, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but there's a pretty clear way to get over, and, pyro and the lights is not necessarily going to do it for you. So,
hey, you can play my Henry Godwinn music, give me my slop bucket, throw a fucking firecracker out there, and I'm walking the ring. I'm done.
That's right. Amen. And like you mentioned, you're still out there in the public eye. You're still doing conventions, and you're, like you said, you popped up at the Undertaker show the other night and everything else. And I know you and Phineas sometimes appear together and do different things. And, nostalgia is a big thing nowadays, right? People aren't people aren't necessarily happy with the current product, so they remember when it was better.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you
And
have anything, but do you have anything coming up that you want to
You-
plug? Any appearances?
Well, you can plug our new dolls just come out with Hassle Toy.
That's right. You got a couple of figures, right? Yeah, you and Phineas both tag team set.
Well, I was talking to, the guy, and I said, we almost got a BSK group here because he did Godfather, he did Savio, and he's done me. And so if you can pick Rikishi up and maybe Godfather or Taker down the road, that'd be a complete set, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I saw those figures. They're pretty good looking figures. And
yeah,
they're done in those old Hasbro style, which you guys didn't get you had lots of figures in the bigger, but not those those smaller Hasbro styles that everybody loves so much. And right. I saw them. They're good looking figures of you and Dennis and you and Phineas. So yeah, people it was Hassle Toys, right? Everybody can go check them out and order a set of those.
They turned out good. Matter of fact, he called me today. He's sending me some today. He sent them out today, matter of fact. So that's good.
Yeah.
And we might be in Pittsburgh in December. I don't know a date. I think it's the oh my God, the second weekend, I think, of December. We might be in Pittsburgh. There's a Comic-Con up there.
Yeah.
So we might be there, maybe pushing the new dolls.
There you go. Yeah. Is there a way that people can keep track of all this stuff in your appearances, that they can follow you, or just
I usually just post stuff on Instagram, under Henry O. Godwinn, and put my stuff out there.
There you go. Yeah. So look him up on Instagram, and keep track of where he's making an appearance, and whatever. Get an autograph, get a picture, buy some figures, and everything else. Because I venture to guess that Godwinns are still pretty badass. I think you can step in the ring and kick most of these guys' ass still in modern time.
My mind says yes. I don't know what my body will do.
Well, everybody's got one good fight left in them, I think, right? It's you just got to pick when you do it.
Or if I had to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mark, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me and reflecting on your career. I mean, we just scratched the surface on the stuff you did. We didn't talk Memphis and everything else that you did. You've done so much and had such a great career. And like you said, you might have said that the Hall of Fame doesn't matter to you, but I really think the Godwinn, some of the guys that are in there, the Godwinns deserve and should have a space in that Hall of Fame. Because like I said, you guys had a great run and you had it during a hot time. So I think you're deserving.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. We'll see. If not, I'm content and happy with what we achieved.
Absolutely, right? It's I every time you do do an appearance, see all the people that remember you and have memories of you. I think that probably makes it all worthwhile for you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so like we said, go out and follow him on Instagram and keep track of his appearances. Go follow Hassle Toys and go to their website and order a Henry and Phineas or a Dennis and Mark figure. I guess you can't use Henry and Phineas, but
2024, me and old Phineas is going to crash one of Undertaker's shows. So
there you go.
We'll have to do it. Me and you'll have to do another podcast. Maybe we get Phineas on this one.
Man, I'd love that. I'd love to have both the Godwinns on. There's a lot to talk about Dennis, but I hear he's a pretty good chef.
Yeah. He took Russ a lot when we were living in Atlanta together.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, we'll do a chapter 2 down the road next year, and maybe we'll get you both on and tell some team stories. So that'd be good.
Yeah, we can tell. Like you said, we just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like I always like to leave a little more for later, right? We can do a follow-up if need be, but you want to leave them wanting more.
We can do 3 or 4 more shows.
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wrestling Fans International Association is back. That's right, the premier fan club association of the 1970s and 1980s has been revived and is back in business. Join today. It's free at thewfia.org. That's thewfia.org. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/WFIA 1969.
All right, and welcome back to Wrestling Nostalgia. Special thanks to Mark Canterbury for coming on and doing that interview. What a great interview that was. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to hook back up and chat with Mark again in the future. Maybe with Dennis Knight, maybe with Phineas. That would be great. I'd love to talk to both Godwinns in a joint interview. Everybody knows my affinity for tag team wrestling. I loved the Godwinns when they were out. I thought they were a lot of fun. So everybody kind of knows, if you've listened to the show for any time, that I like to do tag team interviews on here, right? We had the World Warriors on a while back. We've had the Van Zants on before. We've had the Dawson brothers on before. I love that, having both guys, both tag team members on and doing a dual interview at the same time, a joint interview, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you get a lot of great stories, a lot of great discussion, interaction, whatever you want to call it. The dynamic's really fun for me. And the best thing about those a lot of times is, man, they're easy for me, right? A lot of times you get those guys on and you just prompt them a little bit and get them going. And they just, when you get tag team partners that are your friends that have known each other for a while, they just get chatting and they get telling stories back and forth. And man, I'm just sitting back and enjoying the ride and listening to the story. So anyway, hopefully we can have both Godwinns on in the future. But for now, thanks to Mark for coming on doing that interview. Again, it was a great time. Just a reminder, make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you follow us on social media. I talked about all that earlier. Hopefully y'all either you already do that or you ran right out and did it. I greatly appreciate that support. Make sure you tell a friend about what we're doing here. We have a lot of great episodes that come out every 2 weeks, a lot of fun interviews. We try to keep a positive attitude here. I try to maintain the mindset. You know, I talked about CM Punk earlier, and I try to keep that mindset and that approach of, I talk about, I love what I like, and I kind of just ignore the rest, right? There's lots of stuff that I really don't like in professional wrestling, and I could spend hours upon hours, you know, coming on here, ranting and raving and carrying on. And lots of guys do that out there. And I'm fans of a lot of the guys that do that. And it's entertaining as well. But it's just not me, right, man? I'm more of a, I'd rather shine a little light on what I like. And don't worry about the rest, because it's just, you know, not worth my time. But anyway, again, we'll have a new episode coming up in 2 weeks. Again, in the near future, we'll have the history of the WWA Part 3 with Richard Vicek. I've got a cool interview lined up. Hopefully, I can get this on the books and get it done. And I'm hoping this will be the next episode. I don't want to say anything. Again, if you've listened to the show, I don't like to jinx things. I don't like to say things. I don't like to announce things until the interview is recorded, because I just don't. It's whatever. Whether you call it podcasting, superstition, or whatever it is, I just don't want to jinx me. But anyway, I have someone that I'm talking to. It's going to be fun. It's going to be pretty cool. Hopefully we get the interview done in the near future like we're talking about. And if so, that will be the next episode. So watch social media for that announcement coming soon. But until whatever it is, our next episode in 2 weeks, just be nice to everybody out there, guys. Everybody have a good holiday season as we go, you know, dive into that. But until next episode, until we speak again, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.